So morning and welcome to the 2021 Widthwise Sponsors Roundtable discussion on the state of the large format print sector here in the UK. At the start of this year, we polled some 200 UK large format based PSPs for what was our 14th consecutive year of Widthwise research. I've since conducted a roundtable with a number of print chiefs for their latest take on the market situation. And today I'm very pleased to be speaking with the Widthwise sponsors from a supplier's perspective. And I'm again basing the discussion, the questions for that, on the findings of this year's survey. So hello, gents.
Morning.
Can I just ask you to just give introduce yourselves very briefly, starting with you, Steve?
Yeah, hi, my name's Steve Jones. I work for Premier Display Graphics. I've been involved in the industry since 1987, believe it or not, so a couple of decades there. And I've been with Premier since 2018 as we launched the display graphics division within the business.
Of course. Chris.
Hi, good morning. I'm Chris Green. I'm the Director for Visual Communications within Antelis. So my background has always been in the visual communications market, and I've been in with Antelis now for 27 years. So those who don't know, Antelis, we're a global organisation. Obviously, that covers visual communications, but also packaging and papers as well.
Of course. And Bobby?
Good morning. My name's Bobby Graff. I'm with ACFA, I'm the country manager for the UK and Ireland. I've been with ACFA for 20 years and doing predominantly plates and pre-press. And for 6 years, I'm now responsible for the digital white format division for the UK and Ireland within ACFA.
Okay. Well, let's go straight into the questions then. And firstly, I suppose I've got to ask, sort of how would you describe the state of the wide format print sector, or the wide format market at least, in the UK over the past year? Do you want to kick off, Bobby?
Yes, sure. I think the past year, of course, all the challenges that we've seen have been quite unprecedented. The one thing that came to my mind when I read the question for the first time is how innovative and resilient the industry is. And I think that's what we're seeing now going forward as we're coming out of the pandemic, is the ingenuity of our customers and the way that they're approaching challenges has been quite inspiring, I think. So top of my head, I would say the industry is on the up on the white format side. People are taking it as a challenge and as an opportunity going forward to create new products and obviously also increase their profitability, because what we've seen a lot of times, and a lot of customers have commented on that as well, is they took stock during the time when they had to sit at home and weren't allowed to go into their factories for a period. And at that point, they looked at how they can profit and increase their profitability. And I think that is a good way of going into the next few years.
Yeah. What about you, Steve? How's it been for you?
Yeah, obviously the sector has been under a lot of pressure, but I think most sectors globally have. The lack of events, exhibitions especially, was just one example. And High Street, the lack of that, and the events, exhibitions didn't take place. But off the back, the sector's been very adaptable. It was very quick to respond to the pandemic conditions and be of service to the market in terms of, like, from clear roll-up media for protection screens right through to floor directional graphic applications. So it's quite resilient. No, we're still here. It's still thriving. It's making a comeback. So it's been tough, but we're surging forward.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, how have things been over at Antelis?
Yeah, it's, like everybody, and like the guys have just said there, it's been a kind of obviously a year like no other. When I looked at the question, I was thinking of words to sum up the market. Resilient is one that's been used. Stoic, is another one. And I think at the moment you would say it's kind of reanimating. It's coming back together. It has been a year like no other. When I think I was when you roll the clock back to March 2020, and you was looking at the way that the market was going. I think everybody was taking a deep breath, thinking, where is this going? But it wasn't really that long after, we started seeing a little bit of a resurgence where, as Steve says, people were coming back in terms of there was a shortage of PPE. So at the time, I think a lot of people were creating visors, a lot of people creating screens. And then, we have gradually, kind of found a pace in the market. Yes, there's been multiple lockdowns and, setbacks, but I think overall, we have tried to get back to where we were pre-COVID. And I think what's happened in this period is a lot of people have taken stock, looked at the business, looked at the strategy, looked at the, structures, and really have kind of had a fresh and kind of reinvigorated look at what they want to do going forward. And certainly, the one thing that I've seen, as we've gone through this, that the market as a community has come together as well, particularly in those early days, there was a lot of support for each other. So I think, that's a couple of positives really out of, quite a negative time.
Speaking of negative, well, obviously, what's coming next. I mean, the cost of supplies came out as a primary concern for PSPs, when we did the survey at the start of the year. I mean, what have the cost pressures been like for you? Have you raised prices? And do you expect this pressure on supply chains and costs and prices to change in the year ahead? So a few questions there, but obviously all related to prices. Do you want to kick off again, Bobby, just because it's easy to go around the table, as it were?
Yeah, sure. Yes, the cost of, or the price increase is a concern for us as well as our customers, of course. And what we've seen in terms of freight, the lack thereof sometimes has, of course, forced our hands to some degree. Raw materials have gone up. As a manufacturer of machinery as well as consumables, we had to take a view at some point to say, is there a need for us to increase prices? And unfortunately, we had to. We tried to limit these increases as much as possible, but of course, that's not always possible. I think from where we are now in the UK, it's so unpredictable what the next thing will be that could potentially play its part in having to increase costs either further or having to keep the price increases where they are. And it's so hard to say where this is going to end up. Again, we're taking a medium to long-term view of what the effect of any increase to ourselves is and how we potentially need to pass it on to our customers, and trying to limit as much as possible. But of course, that's not, we can't be, I'm sure every business is the same. You can't be losing money for the sake of trading. We all try to make a living out of the businesses that we are responsible for, or the businesses that we created, and we have to take a view on that. So hard to say what's going to happen. If you would be able to, I suppose we will be playing the lottery. Exactly.
Steve, what's your thinking?
Yeah, raw material costs and availability, it remains under pressure. And we've obviously seen price increases, and there's been more than a few this year. There's been some regular price increases. And we have been in situations where we got no opportunity or no option than to pass those costs on to our customers. But we haven't kind of expanded on that at all. All we've done is pass on the costs, and we try to remain as competitive as possible. I don't think there is, at the moment, there's no long-term stability on pricing, at least for the foreseeable future. But every supply chain, regardless of sector, is currently under pressure, whether it's building and construction or bricks or whatever. Added to that, there are rising distribution costs. We've seen shipping container costs rise exponentially over the past 12 months. And driver shortages are an issue for every sector in the UK as well. And then there's the stuff that you don't see. Who'd have thought a week ago we'd be talking about how the hell are we going to get the next fuel delivery? So that is a constant battle. But despite that, managing our supply chain is a constant battle at the moment. But our priority is to do everything we can to maintain the customer service levels. And we may well see the market remain tight into 2022. And consequently, I think we can expect further price increases in the first half of 2022 as energy and raw material costs continue to rise. So, yeah, it's not easy.
I mean, Chris, I presume you're echoing the others, are you?
Yeah, but very much. I think obviously a part of my remit is very much supply chain management, and I think just going back to where do we think the industry is, and what we wanted. I think we all agree that what we actually want, kind of through the COVID period, was a stable time for the market to recover and to bounce back. And for a number of reasons, particularly on pricing, that hasn't happened. And I say we've all been in the industry for a long time. I think we probably all agree we've never seen a period like this in terms of the pressures that's coming down on cost. And when you look at it, there are a number of factors, and it shows you that there's many interlinking things that can affect pricing. So Brexit being one. As whatever you think about Brexit, it has had an impact. Whether it's the driver shortages, the actual, the extension of lead time now to get goods into the UK, and then we had the backup, in the ports. As Steve mentions, the rising price of containers is something that's absolutely gone through the roof. So you've got this kind of legislative drive, where, as I say, whether it's Brexit, whether it's things like the plastics tax that's coming down the line. A number of people in aligned industries have kind of made a switch from plastics to pulp-based products. You think what does that do? Well, that creates a shortage of pulp that drives the price up. Similar issues as we've seen with the switch of people moving to online when it comes to corrugated. The number of boxes that they don't get recycled through because they're going into domestic situations. All these factors, and then the act of God factors. We've seen snowstorms in America. We've seen obviously the kind of floods in Germany. Military coups, I don't know whether you class that as an act of God, but in Guinea, which drives the biggest manufacturer of bauxite, that drives up aluminium shortages. So all these things, they say a perfect storm is coming down the line. And like the other guys, we try to do varying things in terms of offset, try to promote other products, and in a way it's a good time. We're going to talk about ecology and sustainability. It's a good time to look at switching to more kind of sustainable products, because the gap between what used to be an expensive sustainable product now is very much closing, and in some cases it's actually cheaper. So promoting that the different products that are out there. But I think in the main, we've had to pass price increases on, some categories, some of the price increases of in excess of 30%, so it's the way that it's going. But, we're going to see this moving into next year without a doubt. But at some stage it will settle down. At some stage it will balance. But I think as distributors, we're all looking for the same, which is this stable platform for recovery. So, we just have to work our way through and look for solutions.
Well, your conversation has just segued quite nicely into the next question about, obviously the climate change conference in Glasgow, eco-sustainability is becoming ever increasingly important. So, I mean, how are you greening up your own business? I mean, I talked to the PSPs the other day about what they're doing, but what are you doing? I might as well start with you, Christine, as you've already sort of kicked off on that.
Yeah, and my name's Chris Green, so let's talk about the green situation. But in fairness, it's intrinsic within our business, and this year in particular has been a big year for our sustainability side of things within our visual communications sector. So we've actually launched a green manifesto, which really states our intentions, within this area. And to go with that, we've got a couple of initiatives. One of the initiatives is actually really a matrix and a star system on how to rate products. So that's been introduced, where we class 3 stars and above, up to 5 stars as sustainable products. And within our manifesto, what we've stated is over the next few years, up to 2030, we want to change really our profile of sales of products over to 3-star and above, products within the sales out. So, what we have been doing is introducing a lot of products. We made a very large investment in terms of working capital and a lot of products that we've introduced. Our focus is very much in this sector. We know that when we speak to our customers, we know that when we speak to the end users within the market, that seems to be the number one priority at the moment. And once again, it's not coming to the visual communication side, but if you're looking at our packaging business and the legislative plastics packaging tax, I think you can see where the market is going. So, we have to go there. Listen, we're not perfect within Antelis. I don't claim that we are, but I think we know where we need to go. We've set a course. We've got some good things coming down the line. And we want as a business to improve our own credentials, but also to help our customers to improve. So there's lots going on in the visual communications, and as I say, the packaging side as well, and on the paper side, things like FSC and PFC, that it'll be our second decade of having those certifications. So it is a big part of our thinking and our strategy going forward over the next 10 years.
So, Steve, what's happening over at Premier about, greening up your own business over there?
Yeah, well, like most companies in our sector, I could probably imagine that we've been at it already for quite a long time. As an example, Premier was one of the first companies in our sector to achieve ISO 14001 for environmental management. And that was back in 1998. And we've subscribed to that, and we're monitored it, and we've worked our business to that standard ever since. And when we launched display graphics and the medias and all the products that come under that kind of umbrella, we also subscribe to ISO 14001. We're always looking at the continual initiatives of how we green our own business as part of that program. As an example, back in 2009, we completed a full LED refit of LED lighting in all of our warehousing. We've now got electric charging points in all of our key locations, and we're encouraging all of our car drivers to switch to either full electric or plug-in hybrids. And we're also continually monitoring the business regarding trucks as that's evolving, and as soon as it's practical to do so, we'll be looking to change our fleet to electric vehicles. And we're also a major carbon partner to the Woodland Trust, where we have our carbon initiative gives our customers the opportunity to mitigate their CO2 emissions from the products that they buy from us. The program is unique to the industry, and 100% of the money that's raised from that's generated is paid directly into the Woodland Trust. So far, Premier and its customers, we've raised over £1.2 million, and we have planted around about 250,000 trees. So yeah, we are doing everything we can to be as green as possible, and that will continue to evolve.
Bobby, what's the situation over at Agfa?
Again, we're manufacturing goods that require quite a fair bit of energy and a lot of adjacent raw materials, not just necessarily what we buy, but then creating the product afterwards. And whether that is in sign and display, in wide format printing, or in traditional commercial. And what we've done in our factories, we started processes in which we procure, first of all, we're trying to procure locally. That means reducing down trips of goods coming into factory. In our sites in Belgium, for instance, we've got water treatment plants because we're generating or creating film or manufacturing film-based products. That requires a lot of water. So we've got various water treatment plants where the water used in the factory is then brought back into the factory, and the excess is then brought into the community. And that's been going on for a number of years now. Furthermore, what we're trying to do is try smaller steps, achievable targets that we can implement fairly quickly. One of them being solar panels on the roof of the factories as well. They won't be able to cover the whole of the energy that is needed to manufacture consumables or equipment, but they contribute. And as we go forward, we upgrade those, and hopefully more energy is being generated using those renewable sources that we ourselves are investing into. So that's the area of manufacturing. In terms of supply, of course, we're trying to work with container sizes that potentially reduce the amount of waste, the amount of trips that we do, distributing those products into the countries and then from the countries into our customer base. From a product point of view, for a number of years, we've been implementing on the wide format digital printing side technology now that allows our customers to be greener, for want of a better description. It starts with ink on paper, or the reduction of ink needed to print a product. So, for instance, we can reduce the ink on the product by up to 35% now with modern technology that we've implemented. We call that the thin ink layer technology. But it's not just that; it's also the waste ink that you use that is not going on paper, in order to keep print heads open, making sure that your system is still producing the quality as you had it from day one. And there the metrics or the KPIs have now shown that we are reducing up to 95% compared to an equivalent product from somewhere else, just by reviewing the way that we make the ink, push the ink through the print heads, and the software that drives the color profiles and so on. We were able to reduce the wasting. Again, that's fewer chemicals being sent to recycling plants, but also significantly reduced the number of trips on the road for those inks to be delivered, as well as inks to be able to be taken back. And then finally, and something that is quite apparent, or quite not necessarily that apparent, but quite interesting. The switch to LED technology on your wide format systems allows you to significantly reduce your energy consumption on site. And just by moving from a perfectly working UV hot lamp bulb system to LED, you can be reducing your energy used by up to 80%. So from our customer's point of view, if they want to become greener or more carbon neutral, that is a massive step towards that. So when we've calculated it on the very high end, most productive machinery, and a reduction in 80% powers 10 average UK households a day. That's how much an impact that is. And of course,
speaking along those lines, I mean, I suppose the next question makes sense in terms of, where do you think the sector as a whole needs to be making more or quicker ecological advances? I mean, power and energy has obviously got to be a key one. Are there other, sort of major challenges or things that we can do quite quickly or do better or more of in the short to medium term?
It's hard to say. I think one of the things that we should be starting to focus on is the recycling of the printed product once it comes back from its end user. A good example is always retail and FSDUs. Obviously, the board is recyclable, but depending on the printing process, the ink that is on top is not straightforward. And I think as an industry as a whole, we need to find ways in which the recycling of these products, and proper recycling, not waste to energy, but really going back into the full circle, is being made simpler and more affordable. And I think that's a thinking process that needs to happen between the manufacturers of all the different elements that are needed, whether it's the ink manufacturer, the system manufacturer, the paperboard and material supplier, the printer or the PSP, as well as the end user and the store, for instance, as an example, on how all of us combined can make sure that as much product as possible comes back into comes back into the flow.
Yeah.
Immediately, again, I think from an energy point of view, an immediate step is that looking forward, a lot of exciting technology is coming down our way, which will accelerate what I've mentioned earlier with the full cycle or the full recycling flows.
Yeah. Steve, I'll come over to you then, if that's all right. Just asking you where you feel sort of, on the whole, more and quicker ecological advances need to be made.
It's a great question. Companies, they don't need not only to be thinking about recycling, because that's always and it's very, very important, obviously. It's not just about recycling the recyclability of the products, it's about how they run their business as a whole, and how they can mitigate or minimize the environmental impact in all areas of their business. And I think some companies might get quite overwhelmed by that. There are so many different factors. And I think you should just take it step by step. Small steps matter. Whether it's changing the lighting systems in your warehousing or your offices from standard fluorescent tubes or bulbs to LEDs, or is the type of packaging you're using, the type of transportation you're using, and how, whatever way you can mitigate your carbon footprint. Signing up, look at your suppliers. How eco-friendly are your suppliers? Are there initiatives that you can sign up to help mitigate what you're doing? And carbon footprint, talking of carbon footprint, maybe look at the source of supply, where the material is coming from. As an example, the vast majority of materials that we supply out of display graphics, so we're sourced from Europe. And one of the reasons why we do that is because of the carbon footprint is a big consideration of that.
Yeah. What's your feeling, Chris? Where do you see we need to advance?
Echoing quite a bit of what Steve was saying there, is I don't think there's one silver bullet solution on things. It's obviously a number of small things that build up. I have to say, when it comes to product selection, I come back to my previous point. There are solutions out there now. So, we are a traditional industry, and sometimes it's just human habit to fall back into repetitive mode. We'll always use the same products because that's what we always want. I think when it comes to the education around that, as an industry, we need to do more about the value of sustainable products. And as I say, there's never been a time really better than now to look at some of these products from a more financial perspective. Whether it's, as I say, there's a number of solutions, whether it's internal or external products that can be used, say, for instance, for retail, that really fit that mode, that can be recycled, that can go through the recycling scheme and come into second generation products. So I think, that, with that adoption of what's out there today is important. I echo Bobby's comments about recycling. Recycling isn't the easiest within our country. I think we need to do a lot more about that. It's recycling, the picture on recycling is there's lots of small regional people who do this, and there's not a solution for everything at this moment in time. And I think as an industry, we need to come together about how we do that, how we get products into one place in volume where recyclers are interested in that. I think that's something that we need to do. And then from a manufacturing perspective, from a more kind of technological, I have to say a lot of manufacturers now are very much kind of looking for development of greener products. I suppose one area where needs attention is self-adhesives, because obviously it's in effect a composite product to some extent, and we need a product that can ultimately go through a recycling system that can go into other things, and we don't have that today. So I think the solutions today that we can adopt. And then there's bits of things as an industry we need to work on, as I say, recycling and the amount of goods that actually go into recycling into second generation products and the development of new products. So I think, but it all starts with the small steps from a PSP point of view. It's do what you can, do that investment, and as I say, just have a pathway forward to always improve on what you've done.
Yeah. Talking about, technological development, many of the wide format printers that we spoke to again for the Widthwise think that all the major technological breakthroughs have now already happened in this sector. I've got to ask, obviously, whether you agree. Bobby, should we start with you, seeing as obviously you've got a hardware hat on as well as the consumables?
I wouldn't say that out too loud, because otherwise our R&D people get very nervous in developing new technology. No, I think that's it's very easy to look at something and think, oh, we've just created the best thing since sliced bread, and we don't need to look any further. I think was it Chris who said we need to improve on whatever we think we've done right so far, and there's always a possibility to improve. There is some extremely exciting technology coming down our way that looks at, I think, on a global level, the drivers that are important to people as individuals as well as businesses. And obviously, green printing or more ecological printing is absolutely one of those. And the technology will be driven by what is not necessarily the most popular, but that's the most impact in the long term. And that's what we've been putting a lot of effort and a lot of money behind, to make sure that we do our bit to contribute towards a better future for everyone. Now, ecology can't come at the expense of economy either. So it needs to be a combination of the two. But I think us as a manufacturer, and I know this from, I'm sure other manufacturers are the same, we've got a lot of very intelligent people that will be able to combine the two together going forward. So perhaps FESPA 2021, which is going to happen week after next, is not going to be the technology breakthrough, but it wouldn't surprise me that the next one or the one after is going to be that next moment where we see some major steps forward in technology.
That's interesting. Yeah. What do you think, Chris? Are you looking at similar timescales for bigger technological breakthroughs? Or, I know obviously incrementally it's happening continually, but
yeah, I think Bobby just referenced it there. There's, as I say, from a technology perspective, from a hardware perspective, that's not really our game in the UK. But, obviously Bobby mentioned there, a company the size of Agfa with all its R&D developments behind that, there's companies that will develop, and let's face it, when Henry Ford first invented a car to Tesla, nowadays, it's many reiterations and improvements. So is there going to be a big bang technological thing coming down? Probably not, but what you will see is a refinement in technology and a move in a direction to certainly more eco printing. So I think, that development budget is there in the background, and what we will see, as I say, is certainly improvements on what we've got at the moment, and then a directional push, as I say, to more eco printing.
What do you think, Steve? Have we still got more big bang moments to come?
This is this is a more difficult question for me, as we are not directly involved in the development or sales of hardware. But to echo
but even in terms of materials.
Oh, absolutely. To echo what Chris says, and Bobby, we do have good relationships with many hardware manufacturers, as we've got an avid interest in the pieces of kit that our media, and sort of lining up our media portfolio with that hardware.
Yeah.
I would absolutely anticipate that as we move forward, there will be stuff that we haven't seen yet. Then some of it may be groundbreaking, but we just don't know. One of the transitions from solvent to UV, as an example, was widely warmly received in the market at the time, and now that's been around for quite a long time, and we're always looking for the next thing. So we'd anticipate that things will continue to get bigger, they'll get quicker and more eco-friendly as we move forward.
Yeah. So how would you describe the outlook then for the wide format print market in the UK, do you think, over the coming year? Do you expect it to bounce back to pre-pandemic levels, by the end of 2022, for instance? Do you want to kick off, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, we've already witnessed a resurgence of media in terms of volume, and we anticipate that as events and outdoor events, exhibitions, stadia, as that we've seen that as that's opening up, the market's been quick to respond to that, and we have seen that, and we think that trend's going to continue. Whilst many end users have focused on short-term applications such as social distancing and protection screens, we fully expect that opportunities such as corporate branding will increase and resurge. The high street is coming back. And we think that the market will do pretty well as we return to some semblance of normality.
Don't say the word.
No, don't say the word.
What do you think, Chris?
It's confidence, it's confidence. That's the thing, and let's face it, as I say, we've been through kind of many challenges over the last year, and then you kind of look forward at, advertising and promotion. It's coming back, as Steve says. We certainly see it. I think probably every business pretty much is looking to get back to 2019, in the budgets at this moment in time. That's the way they go. COVID hasn't gone away. So I think we all look a little bit nervously at what will happen over the next few months. But if we can have a lockdown-free run now past Christmas, let retail have a good Christmas, and really get into the next year. I'm very much hoping that we've turned the corner, and I'm very much hoping that the figures will come back. And then, as I say, we've got other things coming down the line. There's other opportunities. As Steve says, I don't think the safety thing will go away. I think that's always going to be in the background now. So we can build on that. Other opportunities. The switch from diesel to electric in terms of fleet will drive more opportunities in kind of fleet graphics and things like that. So, I think the one thing about our industry is, as we said right at the beginning, we are very innovative. We are very resilient as an industry. We will find a way through, and we will find new ways to innovate, to bring vibrance to advertising. So I think I'm always confident. I'm always confident in our industry's ability to bounce back. So I think that we'll see. I think we always have to just add that degree of caution in now, because COVID is here. But yeah, I'm confident for next year.
What do you think about pre-pandemic levels, Bobby? Are we going to get there by the end of next year?
We would hope so, and hopefully we'd surpass that. However, it's so difficult, as Chris and Steve said. We hope for the best, we prepare for the worst, don't we? And one thing that I would sincerely hope is that, yes, we do have a more stable run into Christmas, through Christmas and afterwards as well, is that we're not being pulled back again to some degree, as long as it remains safe, of course, to do so. Situations change, and we might need to change with them.
That's the thing.
One thing, Well, I think one thing, and I echo both Chris and Steve, of course, what they said: the resilience and the innovation and the ingenuity of our customers has been proven and will continue. Because advertisers are camping both conventional printing as well as wide format printing or digital printing. What we see is in mixed environments, the wide format divisions have or let's say the digital printing divisions have bounced back significantly faster than the conventional side. Yes, conventional is getting busier and presses are running, but wide format did that significantly sooner, not just because of COVID signage, because of events are starting to come back and so on. And you can see that at the moment, these divisions, these departments are extremely busy. Yes, Christmas is coming up and there's the usual sort of increase in work. But talking to these customers, they feel that this is likely to continue more. There's an optimism in these divisions and these departments, much more so than in others. And I think when you look at PSPs in this market segment, they should they can wake up in the morning with more optimism than others, I would say. That's where we hope it's going to go.
Well, that sort of echoes, to be honest, what was said in the PSP roundtable. So, that makes sense. Look, thank you all so much for taking part in this discussion. It's brilliant. I know we could probably go on for hours, but we've all got jobs to do and we must go back and do them. So thank you again, chaps, and hope to speak to you all soon. And for everybody that's watching who hasn't downloaded the Widthwise report yet, it's on our website. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.